Hi everybody. This video is going to be of examples 5 through 6, or 5 and 6. So the first thing we always want to do is to do that initial plugging in the value and seeing what happens. So we are plugging in the value of 5. And if you notice, we end up with 0 over 0. So what does that tell us? There's more to do. Now, if you look at the numerator, how it has the quadratic, we know in this case we are going to need the factor. So if we continue along here and do the factoring, we would end up with x minus 5, x plus 2 over that x minus 5. So if you notice, these can reduce. This goes to 1. And if you recall, I've talked about how that is not necessarily the word cancel. It's the fact that they simplify to the number 1. So what we are left with is this function, x plus 2, which is actually a line. So we have turned around and turned this into continuous so that we can find the value. So right here, we are just plugging that in, and we end up with 7. So what did we do here for our technique? We plugged in C. We ended up with 0 over 0. We factored, and we ended up with a value. And the thing to notice again, since we had 0 over 0, it is discontinuous. And it has a hole at our value. We are taking the limit to its output. Now, if you notice, this little question right here says, what happens if the limit is heading to -2? Well, in this case, let me write with a pencil. Okay. In this case, we would say the limit as x goes to -2 of this x plus 2, we plug that in, and the limit would actually be 0. That's not the same thing as 0 over 0. That is just the value 0. Number 6. Let's go ahead and plug in our 36 to see what happens. And if you were to reduce that, you would in fact end up with a 0 over 0. What does that mean? We have more to do. And then our hint is, you guys, if we see a radical, we are going to need to do that conjugate. And what is the conjugate? Remember, you have to change the sign to the opposite. So here is what we would have. We're going to be taking that limit as x goes to 36. So what we end up having is our square root of x minus 6 over x minus 36 multiplied by the conjugate in the numerator and denominator. So let me just highlight real quick what we did there. Do you see how that was a negative? The square root of x minus 6, our conjugate, those are going to be pluses. So what happens when we do this? The very top, you would be doing FOIL on this. In the denominator, go ahead and leave it like it is until we see if there's anything else we need to do. So we're going to have the limit as x goes to 36, and when I multiply and do FOIL in the top, I get x minus 36. Because if you recall a conjugate, the outer and the inner of FOIL go to 0. So now we are left with this. If you notice, those factors go to 1. So we're left with the limit as x heads to 36 of 1 over the square root of x plus 6. Now Now at this point, I can turn around and plug in that value, and we get 1/12. So that limit solution is 1/12. Now what did we do? Let's go ahead and write down what we did for this. We plugged in C, ended up with a 0 over 0. Next thing we did was the conjugate, and we ended up with a value. So again, this is discontinuous, and it has a hole at what were we going to as far as the limit is 36, and our output value 1/12. All right, it's 5 and 6. See you next time.